All righty. So my name is Patricia, and I work for the City of Mountain View's Rent Stabilization Division. And today we are having a workshop about utility adjustment petitions for landlords. It is May 8th, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we'll be going over some basics about utility billing and the changes in utility billing from the regulation updates in December of 2023. What those regulations mean to you and the petition process. We're going to go over this pretty high level today. Hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more detailed in the process. I want to go ahead and see who's here with us today. And it looks like it's a lot of new people actually. So if you don't know much about the petition process, can you go ahead and use the raised hand function over in the bar down below? Okay, anyone else? I'm feeling like there's probably more than two people since I don't know a lot of these names. So if you did raise your hand, you can go ahead and lower it. I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit more detail than I was planning to otherwise. And you can also reference past workshops by going to mountainview.gov/rubs, where all of the materials for this process live, as well as previous workshops. So I'm going to go and do a little bit more of a deeper dive into the beginning parts of this process, and then I'm going to give a little bit of information on the next steps. All righty. And before we get started, just know that there's a lot of information that will be coming at you pretty fast in this. If you have questions, you can go ahead and use the raise hand function at any time. If you have a question, or type it in the chat, if you have a question that I'm going to answer later on in the workshop, I will wait to answer your question. So just know that it'll be answered a little later. All righty, here we go. So we have a new petition process that is a result of changes in regulations. These regulation changes are a clarification so that people understand a little bit more what the expectations are for property owners to be able to be lawfully charging rent in the city of Mountain View and what that means with utility billing. So under the CSFRA, rent includes utilities and is subject to rent increase limitations. What does that mean? Only one rent increase can be given every 12 months. These rent increases are subject to the yearly rent increase limits of the annual general adjustment, and there can be no fluctuating rental costs within a 12-month period. So what does that mean? That means that systems like RUBS are not lawful in the city of Mountain View for how rent is charged. So on December 18th of 2023, the Rental Housing Committee, which is the committee that oversees the implementation of the Community Stabilization and Fair Rent Act, which is our local rent stabilization law, adopted regulations clarifying that utilities are part of rent for units fully covered by the CSFRA. We were getting a lot of questions from tenants on this and a lot of questions from landlords on this. So we wanted to make it really, really clear what that means. Because rent needs to include utilities, and a lot of property owners were charging utilities through RUBS, which as mentioned is unlawful, the Rental Housing Committee adopted a process, a utility adjustment petition process that allows property owners to incorporate utilities currently charged separately from rent that are not sub-metered like PG&E into a fixed amount included in the tenant's total rent. So basically what we're saying is there's a petition process where you, landlord, can add your separate utility charges being charged through RUBS to the physical space rent of your tenants to create a new total rent. There is a whole calculation for this. There's two calculations for this to determine what this means and how much this amount is for your tenants. And in order to figure that out, you have to complete and submit a petition to us to qualify for and apply this adjustment in rent. And that's why you're here today. So all fully covered properties need to complete and submit this petition. You have to send it to our office for verification. There is a time period for tenant response, and then we figure out what the adjustment amount should be and notify you and your tenants, and then you notify your tenants of the rent adjustment being added to their rent. This process does not apply to partially covered CSFRA units or to mobile homes. So if you have a property that is built after 1995, you are only partially covered by the CSFRA and you do not have to do this process. And if you own a mobile home park that is subject to the mobile home residency laws, which are state laws and not part of this process. So before I get going, does anyone have any very high level questions that they would like to ask? All righty, seeing none, I'm going to keep going. So what type of utilities are included in rent? Any utility charges that are paid by the tenant directly to the landlord or through a third-party billing service are or should be included in rent. This includes charges like water, sewer, and garbage. It can sometimes also include charges that are gas or electric, as long as they're being charged through RUBS or directly to the landlord and not sub-metered or individually metered. Those charges should be included in rent. If the utility charge is paid directly by the tenant to a service provider like PG&E or sub-metered, they are exempt. So that means that your tenant's utility bills that are tied to their actual usage are exempt from this process. For instance, your tenant uses electricity and it's billed by PG&E and they know exactly how much electricity they're using and they get charged for that exact usage. Those bills are not included in this process. If you do have a water heater type situation that's for an entire building or for a large portion of your property, and that boiler is heated by natural gas that is charged through RUBS to the tenants as a hot water charge, that is actually a RUBS charge and would need to be included in this petition. If you already include utilities in a fixed amount of rent, that is perfect. That is exactly what you should have been doing since the start of the law in 2017, and you are in compliance with the law. You will need to either file a petition with us or notify me or my team over here at Mountain View by emailing mvrent@mountainview.gov and letting us know that you already have your utilities included in rent. If that's the case, we'll send out a notice to your tenants for your tenants to be able to respond to the petition and to your claim that your rent already includes utilities, and then the process will close out and you're just already ready to go because you've been in compliance with the law. So what are the key points of the regulations? One of the most important things is for new tenants. So this is March 1st of 2024, so over a year ago. For all tenancies starting after March 1st, RUBS is not allowed. If you are charging RUBS for new tenancies, you need to contact me immediately so that we can fix that because you are giving unlawful rent to your tenants, and that is a very big problem. If that's happening, please, please, please contact me, contact my staff, and we can fix that with you. You're going to have to refund all of those RUB charges to your tenants, but at least we can get you back into a lawful rent so you can get rent increases and be in compliance with the law. For those tenancies, total rent must include utilities. Rental agreements must state the total rent amount and specify the types of utilities and housing service fees that are included. And utility charges, again, paid directly by the tenant to utility service providers or sub-metered utilities are exempt for this process. So what's the big takeaway for this? For new tenants, total rent must include utilities and RUBS is not allowed. For existing tenancies, these are tenancies that started before March 1st of 2024, RUBS can continue until the utility adjustment petition is filed and approved by the city, and the rent adjustment notice is given to the tenant and the adjustment goes into effect. Utility charges for vacant or newly rented units may not be allocated to existing rental units through RUBS or similar systems. You need to call your RUBS provider and say, hey, for all of these tenancies starting after March 1st of 2024, these utility charges for vacant or newly rented units cannot be allocated to those previously existing rental units through RUBS. If you don't do that, you are charging unlawful rent increases to your tenants. And utility charges paid directly by tenants to utility service providers or sub-metered are exempt. Again, what's the big takeaway from this? For a little bit of time, utilities can continue to be charged separately from RUBS charged separately from rent for existing tenancies if the tenancy started before March 1st of 2024. And then finally, tenant petitions. There's a whole bunch of information on tenant petitions that I'm not going to go into too deeply, other than to say, if your tenant files a petition related to RUBS charges, because keep in mind this is an unlawful charge, those petitions are on hold for now, unless you, as the property owner, are charging RUBS for new tenancies starting after March 1st of 2024, or there was a situation where you had a tenant that had utilities included in their rent, and then you as the property owner took the utilities out and started charging through RUBS. That is an unlawful rent increase, and a tenant can still file a petition for that. Okay, before I go on to the actual utility adjustment petition process, do we have any questions out there? We only have 5 participants in our workshop today, so if you have any questions, I can answer them. All righty, we do have one. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself, Yan.
Hi, yes. Hi, this is Yan. Thanks for the information. And I have questions. So, if so I have a multifamily, and I have 2 tenants that's wants to file the petition. So once I file the petition, I need to do for all the units, or can I choose that only apply the adjustment to one of the unit?
I will go through the workbook with everyone in a little bit, and I can show you how that works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. All righty, we are gonna keep going. So this is what the implementation plan for this process looks like. We've made it through the first 3 phases. We did a lot of research and received input from the community, adopted regulations at the RHC meetings, and then we started implementing the process back in December of 2023. We've done a lot of outreach and education. You're in one of these workshops right now. We hold these every month. And then phases 5 and 6, the submission of petitions to the division and processing of the petitions are well underway at this point. This is the submission deadlines. You can see here, the first big batch of petitions were due on April 30th, the next to be submitted to our office. The next group for slightly smaller properties of 6 to 20 units are due July 31st. And then for units, properties with units that are between 1 and 5 units, those properties are due at the end of October. So there are different types of petitions for different types of situations at your property, depending on how utilities are billed. If you are only billing water, sewer, and trash, or water, sewer, or trash to your tenants and not PG&E in any way, shape, or form, you will fill out the standard workbook, which is what we'll be looking at today. If you have a situation where water, sewer, or trash and one of the utilities, gas or electric, in some way is charged to tenants through RUBS, you would be using the all utilities workbook. And if you're in a situation where utilities are all sub-metered or all included in rent, then that's that situation where you're going to want to contact me and I'm going to help you a little bit differently. This is the petition process. You'll submit your petition to us, the petition form. There's a form, there's a workbook, and then there's documentation. You're going to submit that to us. We'll review the petition and we'll notify you if it's complete. If it's complete, you serve it on the tenants and you file it with us. If it's not complete, we help you and we'll let you know what needs to be submitted to us to complete the process. After you serve the petition and the workbook on your tenants, you will then, your tenants will then receive a notice of formal filing. You'll receive one as well. This notice to the tenants has a form where they can dispute what you say in the petition. So let's say you say that their rent includes utilities and it doesn't. They can tell us, actually, my rent does not include utilities. I pay my rent through RUBS, and then we help you figure out how to fix your workbook to make it accurate. Once the tenant response period closes, we then do a formal review of your petition. We review calculations and tenant responses. We might request additional documents or ask you to update your workbook. And then we do a final review and make sure that everything looks like it's calculating correctly. And if it is approved, then final determination notices are sent to your tenants, letting them know what their one-time utility adjustment amount is. And then you will notify them of the actual adjustment and apply the adjustment as required under the law. So this is a whole bunch of details that I'm not going to go super in detail with you this afternoon because we're at the very beginning of the process with everyone who's here today. But the basic takeaways are if it's a down, we look at the averages of what your tenants were paying in their utility amounts for a 12-month time period. And if the final adjustment for the utility petition is less than that average, then it's considered a downward adjustment. If it's more than that average, it's considered an upward adjustment. And that matters because it matters on how you have to notice your tenants of the adjustment. So if it's a downward adjustment, you'll have one specific way that you notice your tenants. And if it's an upward adjustment, you have another specific way that you need to notice your tenants. And that's really important. But you don't have to worry about that very much because we will help you figure that all out together. And one thing I do want to mention that I really want to put a lot of importance on is if you don't submit a petition to us and you have tenants that are being billed through RUBS, right now, this is like an amnesty grace period. And so if you don't file a petition with us, that amnesty goes away. And basically rent now, whatever that rent amount is. So let's say you had $1,000 rent and you were charging tenants utilities through RUBS, the rent amount, that $1,000 now includes utilities. So they just pay $1,000 and that's it. Their rent includes utilities at $1,000. RUBS goes away, you can't charge it. And so you didn't get any additional funds to be allocated to you through the petition process. So it's just $1,000. That's it, done, walk away. The other piece of that is that utilities cannot be billed separately unless individually submetered, and tenants would now be able to file an unlawful rent petition with the city to recover any overpayment due to RUBS charges. So basically what that means is that, for instance, if you had a tenant that was in their unit as of 2017 and you were charging RUBS that entire time, you're now liable for all of those RUBS charges, and all of those RUBS charges would have to be paid back to that tenant. So you really, really, really want to get a petition into us if you're charging through RUBS, because there's repercussions if you don't. Okay, any questions before I move on to the actual petition form and how they look and how they work? Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk, Yan.
Sorry about so many questions. So because I got tenant from my previous owner. How do I know if they charge ROBs?
Well, how are you charging utilities now?
I pay for gas, water, treasure, and what else? They only pay PG&E. They only have,
Okay. Oh, perfect. So if you don't have any tenants that are paying utilities through RUBS right now.
okay, so
No, I'm asking you that question. Do you have any tenants on your property that are paying utilities through RUBS?
sorry, I just got a property. I have no idea. What is the ROBs?
So
I
RUBS is a third-party billing service for your
oh
utilities.
then
If your tenants are only being charged for PG&E, then you're not using RUBS.
okay, so then we're not. What I know is my tenants only have PG&E account. That's it.
Perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to email me at the address for your building, and then we will confirm with your tenants that they're not being paid, that they're not having to pay utilities through RUBS. So that's a much easier process for you. You're going to just email me at Patricia, so my name, Patricia black like the color, BLACK, at mountainview.gov. And you're going to let me know your address for your property and that you don't use RUBS at your property.
Okay, good to
Okay.
know. Thank you, Patricia.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will take a look at the petition form and the workbook really quickly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen briefly so I can pull this up for you. And actually, I'm going to do this a little differently than I normally do. I'm going to go to our web page so you can see where to find this if you want to find it on your own. Okay, so you can see here that I have the website pulled up, mountainview.gov/RUBS. So you don't need that long chain. It's just mountainview.gov/RUBS. And right at the top here, you say find petition materials, including forms and workbooks by clicking here. You can do that, or you can scroll down. If you scroll, you'll learn a whole bunch of information. I'm going to go ahead and click here. It's going to jump us down to where our forms are. And we have all of the information here that you need. So first, you're going to open the petition form. You're going to download this petition form. And then you're going to complete it. It gives you all of the information that you need to know what to do. And the first thing you're going to do is figure out what workbook you need. You're going to review the regulations and you're going to review our relevant terms. This petition form has a whole bunch of terms for you, definitions, so that you can fill out your form more easily. You're going to get a whole bunch of documents together for us. It's all listed out here. And then you're going to complete the petition. You'll submit your forms once complete with your documentation and your workbook to us by these deadlines. And you'll serve the petition on your tenants. This tells you exactly what you need to do. I'm not going to read it to you, just going to show you that there's a bunch of instructions here to help you with the process. And then next up, you'll see that there's our definitions that I mentioned, pretty important. That'll help you understand what's going on a little bit more. And then finally, our form. So this form is pretty simple. You're going to put in the landlord's information, who the owner is, if you need translations or interpretation support. If you're a property manager, you're going to complete the representative information you see here, as well as a representative authorization form, which is also available on our website. You're going to put in some basic information about the property, and then you're going to let us know what size property you have. So if you have 6 to 20 units, it's due by July 31st. More than 20 units, it's already late. And if you have 1 to 5 units, you're going to mark it. So you'll mark whatever you have, and then you're going to let us know what common area amenities you have. So if you have a pool, landscaping, and common area laundry facilities, you're going to mark those. Let's say you don't have a pool, you'll leave that blank. You're just going to mark what you have on your property. This affects your common area deduction. And then you're going to let us know what workbook you're using. So if you have option A, you're going to let us know that water in this property that I'm making up, water, sewer, and trash are all billed through RUBS, and PG&E covers gas and electric. So I'm going to be using workbook A, the standard workbook. And then as you're going through, you're going to gather these documents. You need to gather all of these. These are not optional documents. You're going to gather the evidence of utilities as part of rent, like a rental agreement for those new tenancies. You're going to gather evidence of submeters. This can just be a photo of the submeters on your property. You're going to gather evidence of the room count, and you can self-certify that. You're going to gather evidence of the common area amenities, photos of your pool, landscaping, a map. Google Maps is great. You can take a picture showing of the screen. You can take a screenshot of the map from the satellite view and show us whether or not you have a pool on the property. And then property-wide utility bills. These are really important for the time period from July 1st through June 30th. Or that closely resemble that 12-month period. And then you're going to let us know if you have any missing documentation. You can add, tell us more information and additions and explanations, and then you'll go ahead and sign your petition. So that's our petition form. Next up, so you need to provide that. Next up is our workbook. I'm going to go ahead and download this workbook for you so you can see what it looks like and how it works. So we're going to go to the instructions. We have instructions here for you. They tell you how to fill out each worksheet and the documentation that you need to attach for it. Worksheet 1 is contact information. 2 is unit information. And what you're going to see here is that there's all of this green on this worksheet, okay? All of this green auto-populates. So when I type in information into this workbook, I'm going to make up a few different people at this property. I'm going to give us some tenants here. I'm going to give us 5 tenants. They all live at 1981 California. Okay, so when you type information in here, it plops that information into this worksheet. So we just let the worksheet know that these unit numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now for those units, I'm going to tell the worksheet how many bedrooms there are in them. So in unit 1, it's a 2-bedroom. Unit 2, it's a 1-bedroom. Unit 3 is a studio. Unit 4 is a 2-bedroom, and unit 5 is a 2-bedroom. And you can see here that the worksheet is doing all of this work for us. There's a whole calculation that's happening based on the regulations that were adopted by the Rental Housing Committee. That goes off of the number of rooms in a unit. So not the number of bedrooms, but the number of rooms. The number of bedrooms, the kitchen, and the living room are included in that calculation. So the bathrooms aren't included, dining rooms aren't included, just the kitchen, the living room, and the number of bedrooms. So you can see here where there's a 2-bedroom apartment, that means it's a 4-room unit because it has 2 bedrooms plus a kitchen plus a living room. If it's a studio, it has 2 rooms. It has a kitchen and a living room. So all of that calculation is happening automatically. You don't have to worry about it. The next thing is that there are 2 calculations that are being compared here for determining what the utility adjustment is. It's whatever the lesser of the 2 calculations are. So we're looking at this Mountain View calculation, and we're looking at one from the Santa Clara County Housing Authority. For the Santa Clara County Housing Authority, we need to know how many units are in a building. So most of the time, it's going to be 3 or 4 units. And in our property, I'm just going to show you, this is, made up because we are doing this for the sake of an example. I want to show you that everything works correctly. This is what that looks like. So next up, you're going to tell the worksheet if the unit's occupied or not. So I'm going to let it know that there's a couple of vacancies and that most are occupied. This all affects how the calculations work. Next up, I'm going to put in the move-in date. Why does this matter? Because we need to know that whether or not this tenant should have utility bills being billed toward to RUBS, or if they're being unlawfully charged RUBS. So I'm going to there's no one in this vacant unit. I'm going to make up some dates here. This person has been here for a long time. And then this one's vacant. Okay. So I'm also going to put in their rent. Again, I'm just making things up for the sake of our example. And then if they moved in and they haven't received a rent increase, I'm gonna put in the move-in date, like this newly occupied unit. This person received a rent increase last year in or they actually just received a rent increase in 2025. And then we have this tenant as well. They just got a rent. Okay. And then now we're going to tell the worksheet how water is charged for this unit. So for this unit, it is included in rent. For this unit, it is charged through RUBS. For this unit, actually, I'm going to change. Yeah. In this one, it is charged through RUBS as well. If it's vacant, I'm going to follow the directions and leave it blank. And I'm going to do this for the last utilities as well. So as you can see, I followed the law. My new tenants are charged their utilities included in their rent amount. And we are filling out our workbook for our tenants that are currently being charged for RUBS. Worksheet 2.1 is a reference chart. It tells you the information that's being pulled for these cells here for the calculations. And then the next one is common areas. So we talked about this a little bit with the petition form. As it says here, there's a common area deduction. And for this worksheet, it's presumed to be 20%. If you have a lower common area, you can let us know. So basically, if you have a pool and you have landscaping, but you don't have laundry facilities on your property, you're going to tell us. And if that's the case, your common area deduction is less. And then in worksheet 4, you're going to enter your bills. I'm going to do just a quick overview here. So that you can see how this works. You're going to make sure this information is entered correctly. And then you're going to tell the worksheet what the bill is, the start period of service, the end period of service, and then the charge. So I'm going to put in some dummy numbers again that don't mean anything because this is not a real property. We're just trying to get the next worksheet to work. So this one, the second worksheet, kind of gathers a whole bunch of information. Again, everything that you see is green, you don't enter in, right? So for this property, we have this total water charges. We have our common area deduction. We have our number of rooms on our property. And then all of that goes into these calculations. So this is saying, and I might need to up the amounts here. Yeah, I'm going to up them a little bit so that we have a little bit more of a reasonable bill happening. And you can see everything auto calculates and adjusts as we're putting information in. Let's see if that's looking a little bit better. Yeah, okay. So it's doing all these calculations, it's figuring everything out for you, and then it pulls this information that is unit specific into the worksheet. And it's going to look at the two types of calculations that we have. If they moved in after 3/1/2024, the worksheet figures that out, says it should be included in rent. And this line is basically, just taken up. The next one is it's going to show you the difference for your sewer allowance between the City of Mountain View's calculation and the county's calculation. And it's going to do that for trash and for water. And then it's going to give us these totals. So these totals tell us, okay, if we're looking at the lesser than, it's going to let us know in this per unit allowance worksheet what our final increase is, the amount, the greatest maximum amount of our final increase is. So it's saying that whatever the lesser of these two calculations is your final adjustment, and then it adds on a CPI, Consumer Price Index, inflation adjustment to give you your total amount. And then finally, in worksheet 8, this is where you put in what the total amount for your proposed utility adjustment is. It can be as high as the monthly utility adjustment maximum, but it cannot be more than that. So you can be less than that. Like, let's say you don't like that there's 15 cents here. You can make it 174, but you can't make it 175. So it needs to be 174.15 or less. For the sake of this land property owner likes round numbers. They're going to do 170. And for this tenant, they're going to do 190. Okay. Again, it can't be 200, but it can be 190. It can be whatever you want up until that 195.05. Some property owners are even just foregoing this altogether and saying that utilities are now included in rent, and that's done. Their tenant's rent was $1,000 plus rubs, and now it's just $1,000. So just know that you can do that. You're free to do whatever you want and how you apply your utility adjustment amount, as long as it doesn't go above the maximum amount allowed. So once you're done with this process, you've filled out the form, you've gathered all your documentation, and you've done the workbook, you're going to email this to my staff or to me at mvrent@mountview.gov. And then we have time to review the submission and let you know if it's complete. And then we'll go back and forth with you. We're going to provide you a bunch of documents to help you with serving the petition. And then you'll go ahead and serve the petition on your tenants. You'll let us know that you did. You're going to provide us one of your proofs of service. And then we will send out a notice of filing, and then your tenants have 30 days to respond to the petition. And during that time period, you'll be doing some more gathering of information and figuring out the actual utility averages for your property. And then once that's done, we go ahead and figure out what we go ahead and as staff do the final review of the calculations, the actual formal review of all of the calculations, and then send out a notice of final determination with what the utility amount will be. And then there's a whole bunch of other noticing that you have to do. So it's a kind of iterative process. There's multiple steps, but the nice thing for you all is that we've done our best to make the process as user friendly as possible. So what does that mean? We've taken on a lot of the challenging pieces of it so that you as the property owner don't have to do as many things as were required under the regulations. For instance, there's a way that the forms have to be filled out that if we had left in the way that was originally thought out would be very cumbersome for you as the property owner. We've taken some of that on ourselves so that it just makes the process easier for you and for your tenants. We recognize that it's just kind of cumbersome. So thank you for working with us and for kind of walking through this with us. I do see I have a hand raised, and I'm going to go ahead and finish a little bit of the kind of presentation stuff, make sure that we're all caught up there, and then I'll go ahead and take questions. So, all right. So again, there will be a recording of this workshop that you can access. It will be emailed to you tomorrow. And I'm going to skip over this. Now, the next steps for you in preparing the petition, what do you need to do? You need to gather your property-wide utility bills from July 1st of 2023 through June 30 of 2024. You need to get us documentation of your common area facilities. You're going to get unit information, and you're going to get proof of utilities that are included in rent or sub-metered. And finally, you're going to contact us if you have questions. So we have multiple touch points for people. We have the Housing Help Center for landlords and property owners. That happens every Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. You can come into our office at 298 Escuela, or you can join virtually by going to Oh my gosh. mountainview.gov/housing help clinics and just logging in directly. There's always someone there to help during those hours from 1 to 3. You can also join us for office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are virtual and they happen from 10 to noon every Tuesday. And you can go ahead and register for those by going to mountainview.gov/RSP office hours. You can also just contact me or my staff by emailing mvrent@mountainview.gov, or you can email me directly by emailing patricia.black@mountainview.gov. You can see it on my screen here, my name. So in between Patricia and Black, there's a period @mountainview.gov, and you can email me there. Okay, so I see we have one question, one hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk, Mr. Pan, and you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, Patricia. My name is William Pan. I am trying to fill out I'm trying to learn how to fill out the form here. So just wondering, we have 4 units, and do we need to report all 4 units? Because 3 of them are currently included in the rent. Utility are included in the rent. Just 1 unit that still going through the RUB.
So just like I showed in the workbook, Mr. Pan, on worksheet 2 here, you're going to fill out included in rent.
Oh, okay, including the rent. Okay.
Mhm.
And so for the building type, we have 2, it's a 4-plex, but we have 2 buildings. So the first building is only have 1 unit, it's like a single family home, and the other
Perfect.
3, are in the building.
So there's a drop-down list here. Can you see on the
Okay.
screen? Let me
Yes, I
zoom in
see
a
that.
little bit. Yeah, so in the drop-down list, it gives you the option for single family home.
Okay.
So you'll pick single family home for that one and the one that's a standalone unit. And then for the other ones, you'll pick in a building with 3 or 4 units.
Okay.
Okay.
And we do have 2 units that kitchen and the living room are combined together.
They still count as 2 rooms.
They still count as 2
Yeah.
rooms. Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah.
And the living room. What does the SRO? I see the SRO somewhere.
SRO is a single room occupancy unit. So that means that there's no kitchen, there's no living room, it's just a room. It's just
Oh, I
like
see.
a room in a house. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very rare. You
Okay.
won't have that.
So
Yeah.
okay. All right. So we own all right. Okay. I will. Okay. I think I have no further questions. So we
Okay.
still need to report all 4 units, right? No matter
Yep.
what. Okay.
Mhm.
I see. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Right.
All right. Are there any other questions? This is your opportunity to ask. You've got my full attention right now, and I bet if you have a question, someone else on the line does too. Okay, Beatrice, I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And we can't hear you if you are trying to talk. If you can't ask your question, if for whatever reason your headphones aren't working or something, you can type your question into the Q&A down at the bottom of the screen, because we can't hear you. Does anyone else have a question today? Beatrice, if you want, you can type it. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Yes, this is recorded, and the recording will be sent to you tomorrow, and will be available at mountainview.gov/rubs. Good question. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. We will keep you updated on the process, and we're moving as quickly as we can through these. There's just quite a few because it's for every unit in the city that's fully covered. So we have like 9,000 units that we're reviewing right now. So thank you for your patience, and we will try our best to continue to stay up to date with you and to notify you when we move forward in the process. We really appreciate that you joined us today, and I will look forward to speaking with you all in the future. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon. Reach out to me if you need. Again, you can email me at any time at patricia.black@mountainview.gov. Have a great Thursday.